Alrighty, what is going on, y'all? Welcome back to Stealth and Steel Outdoors. My name is Grant, and today we're actually going to go over a bunch of smaller things that are going to be important inside of the long-range shooting series. Now, all this is kind of building to something, and there is going to be a video to where I show you how to actually shoot at these extreme distances, and this is going to be starting to be, I guess, the founding, or I guess the building blocks of it all. So stay tight with me. We're going to talk about a few different things today, and yeah, we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump on right into this video. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to talk about is leveling your sight, and that's what I'm going to show you how to do. So you're going to need a couple of things. So the first thing you're going to need is a sight that's going to have first, second, and third axis adjustment. If your sight does not have this, then none of this matters, okay? If you do, or if you are interested in upgrading your sight, I would recommend looking at some of the companies like CBE. They have a little bit lower price sights that's going to have all the adjustments that you're going to need. Black Gold is another great sight company to look at, but they tend to be on the higher end of stuff. Or you can do what I do, and I buy most of my stuff used on eBay. Like this is a Black Gold Pro sight on a dovetail, and it's a 5-pin sight with custom fibers on the inside. I picked this sight up at the time, I think it was less than 220 bucks. So definitely a steal. Typically this is like a $400 or a $500 sight, and I was able to get it for, basically nothing. Now, this sight on a dovetail has first, second, and third axis adjustment. Also, the second thing you're going to need is something to hold your bow level. And I have the second cheapest bow vise on Amazon, and it came with this level and another one, but the other one's not important for the video I'm making today, so we're just going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how to level your sight. Actually, I can't say that. I'm going to show you how I level my stuff. So the first thing that I do is I always crank this thing down to where my sight housing and my sight rail are flush. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to here and I'm going to get everything perfectly level here, because if it's not level up here, it's not going to be level up there, and none of the other levels you're going to be putting onto your bow are going to make any sense. So start here and work forward. Pretty self-explanatory. So once you get it perfect here, what I do is I take another level and I put it right here on the top of the rail. This level actually has a little magnet on the bottom of it, so it sticks pretty good onto the top. And now what I'm going to do is make my first axis adjustment. It looks pretty good right now, at least that's what I'm going to tell the camera, but if I wanted to, Black Gold sights have 2 screws on the top and on the bottom of the dovetail or whatever mounts to your bow. And what I do is I break them over with an Allen key, and then I will finger tighten them down, because what always happens with this, especially with these older sights, is when you tighten a screw, you also move the level. So you kind of have to go back and forth between the two. So you get it squared, you get it tightened down, but you don't move the level. All right, and then next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the sight exactly where it is at right now, and I'm going to look in the actual level. Now, Black Gold sights, their second axis adjustment is actually on the sight ring itself, and so you kind of have to work it the same way as you did your first axis adjustment, but you're basically going to move that level until it is perfectly level, tighten down the screws. You're basically leveling your first and your second axis is very, very easy to do as long as you have all the equipment. Now, it is also very, very important. Now, the third axis is something you're going to have to shoot in on your own, and that'll be a video I make later on. Okay, so now we're going to talk about stabilization. Now, I would say for the vast majority of people who shoot a bow, stabilization really doesn't mean anything to you, okay? It really should be so far down on your list that it is unimportant to you, because I can guarantee you that 95% of people out there who are shooting a bow, they have other matters that are so more pressing that need to be fixed before they need to start worrying about how their bow balances, okay? Now, if you were at this point to where you're watching this video and you've been following along, it might be to the point to where you need to start to worry about it, because even though there are things that are more important than it, it really does help you be accurate, and it really does help you with your consistency when you finally get it right. And I'm going to show you how I balance my bow today. Alright, so after you get your bow and you have all your stuff put onto it, how do you balance it? Well, a lot of the balancing of the bow is personal preference, because if you're somebody who hunts with their quiver on or only shoots their bow with their quiver onto there, you're going to need to do a little bit more and put a little bit more effort into actually getting your bow to balance properly and sit good in your hand. That's why with me, I don't hunt with this thing on my bow. And I have more than just that reason. The first reason is this already is a pretty damn heavy bow, okay? And I don't need it weighing however much all that crap weighs on the side of the bow. When the wind starts blowing, that it makes the bow basically a sail, okay, at that point. And when you do hunt with your quiver on your bow, and let's say you have to make a follow-up shot, well, if you have only shot your bow with one arrow missing in your quiver and you don't know where your second, third, fourth, fifth, however many arrows you're carrying are going to hit differently, because your bow is going to be tuned differently because it is progressively getting lighter as you empty it. Now, when it comes to stabilizers, running multiple stabilizers, having different sets of brackets and all that stuff, I'm going to save you guys a ton of money and buy the stuff on Amazon. Really, just buy the V-bar bracket on Amazon, whatever it is. That's what I did, and I have put this thing on dozens of different bows at this point, and I ain't had an issue with any of it, okay? You really just need that second bracket to put a second bar on your bow, because for me, when I started putting a back bar on my bows, I started shooting phenomenally, and I started shooting to the point to where I feel like I can speak confidently onto what I'm doing because I have done everything all the way up until this point. So it really can bump your archery to the next level, but if you don't have all your other ducks in a row, this really ain't going to help you that much. So both my front bar mounts and my rear bar mounts are Amazon Quick Disconnect Specials. The front bar that I'm running, this is a Bee Stinger Premier Plus bar that I haven't spray painted yet, and eventually I will, but I am running like 4 ounces, maybe 4 ounces on the front of this, and it is a little bit of a longer stabilizer. I honestly couldn't even tell you how long this damn thing is, but it's not important because, well, it's a stabilizer. I mean, it really doesn't make that bit of difference. You can make your own stabilizers, and I'm going to be 100% honest with you. They might even be more well built than some of the ones you're going to pay a good bit of money for. So, not saying anything about any other companies, but there's a reason why I only shoot Bee Stinger bars. So, my bottom bar is about the same length, just about, but it has like triple the weight on it, and it even has this cool stainless weight on the very edge of it, and this thing runs basically straight down. And I have it set up this way so that when I put my bow down in the woods, this stabilizer keeps my bottom cam off of the ground because it creates a perfect triangle like right here, and then when I go to set it down anytime, I don't have to worry about this thing falling over, or if I have it knocked or an arrow knocked or anything, I don't have to worry about my broadhead getting stuck into the ground or anything like that, and it is super, super nice to do it. And probably the hardest thing about stabilization is that you're going to have to put a lot of time and work into shooting, okay? You're going to have to play with all of this stuff that's on your bow to finally get it to sit right for you. Just be careful when you do finally start hitting your stride with all this, because stabilization is something that is extremely user preference, okay? And there really isn't anything that I can tell you on here. I can just kind of show you what I have. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit more about sights, and then we're probably going to end this video because this is going to take up a good portion of, I guess, the rest of the video. So, when it comes to choosing a hunting site, there's a couple of things you're going to want to do. The first thing, like I said, you're going to want to make sure it's going to have first, second, and third axis adjustment, because those are all going to be important for later. The next thing, you really should shoot multiple pins, okay? And I'm saying at least 3. Now, I don't know how you hunt, if you hunt over bait, or if you are okay with just shooting at 20 yards and the only thing you need is a single pin sight, then rub some funk on it. However, in most of the hunting situations that I find myself in, they could be at 18 yards or they could be at 70 yards. So it really makes it hard to use a single pin to cover all that range, okay? And it's basically impossible. So I would recommend hunting with a multiple pin sight and not a single pin sight. This thing is great for target shooting and maybe turkey hunting when, like, you have your decoys out there, or for people who hunt over bait and stuff like that. This is probably, the bomb.com for you, but for me, I really need something that's a little bit more versatile that can give me the opportunity or the ability to reach out there and to touch something if I have to. All right, so you got your new sight on your bow. How do you set it up? Okay, so now you have multiple pins you're working with. You either have 3, 5, or 7 pins, okay? And there are a couple of options out there that have 2 pins. You can use that, I guess. I know people who do and have a lot of success with it. I would recommend more of that. But now that you have all these pins in your damn sight housing, how do you set them up? Well, it's actually very easy to do. So what you're going to do is you're going to start off by setting all your pins in the bottom half of the sight housing. And the reason why you're going to want to do that is because when you go to adjust and when you go to dial up or dial down, if your pins are at the bottom part of your sight housing, you're going to be able to extend your range on your sight tape without shooting your sight housing, okay? Because if all your pins are at the top, then that's where your sight or your sight tape is going to start. And the higher it starts, the less yardage that you actually get out of it. So After you set them all at the bottom, I'm going to highly recommend that you don't set your 20 first. You actually set whatever your bottom pin is first. That might be 80 yards, 60 yards, or 40 yards, but at the end of the day, what you need to do is you need to set the bottom one first, because it's really easy to set the rest of them, but that bottom pin is just so important, and I'm going to show you why here in a second. Now, how you set your pins up in the sight housing matters, and I'll show you how I have mine set up, and I'm going to go ahead and explain it to you a little bit before I show it to you. So what I've done is I've taken my 60-yard pin and ran it all the way basically as low as I can possibly get in my sight housing, and then I brought it up. And the reason why I did that is because, especially for follow-up shots, and when you are dropping a bomb on something, you really don't have the primary features to really aim off of the animal at 89 yards or 91 yards, whatever it is, at that point. But you do have the body cavity, the front legs, and basically the neck and the head is what you can see when you're at full draw and your pin's covering the animal. So what I do, I call it shadow shooting, and what I do is I basically take my front or my bottom pin, if I am dropping a bomb on something, and I run it up the front leg. And as soon as I start to see brisket and like body cavity and the bottom third of the deer, I settle it down and I really start to focus, and then I send that arrow, because I know that if I'm above the brisket and I'm anywhere in the body cavity, a second arrow in that animal is a lot better than it running off, okay? And I know that if I can just get another arrow into the cavity, that 9 chances out of 10, it's going to stop right there, or it's not going to go that much farther and bed down. And all right, and so here's how I have my pin set up in my sight housing. Like I said, I have a little bit of a gap above my bubble level and where my 60-yard pin is, and like I said, that is for shooting at those extreme distances. And then, like I said, I have the rest of the pins. But as you can see, I tried to keep them all in the bottom half of the sight housing if I possibly could. And I know that, the unimportant ones up here are above that. But as long as your floater pin or whatever pin you're going to use to shoot off of your sight tape is at the bottom and really close to the bottom of your sight, you'll really be able to extend your range. But that is all that I have for you guys this evening. I really do hope you enjoyed the video. And I meant to say this earlier in the video, but in an earlier video, I put gas strings on this bow, and I'm gonna be 100. I did it because they were recommended, okay, and they were recommended by somebody who sells them, which is typically a bad recommendation. But I just put these strings on this bow, and I have not been able to get this peep sight to stop turning, and it actually came unserved down here to where the string stop is, and this was like a $145 set of strings, and the peep sight has done nothing but turn. It didn't come with string silencers, which is also kind of crappy, and it came unserved. And I don't even want to get into the center serpent on this. It is just, I'm just very unimpressed with these bowstrings, and if there are anyone out there who makes bowstrings, I will pay you to make me a custom set, as long as I'm not going to get something like this crap, okay? I probably will be replacing these before it's season, but I do hope you enjoyed this video. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, guys, I hope you all have a good one.